Hi there. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Beyond the Frame. I'm your host, Joe Parente, and I've learned some of my most valuable life lessons from my favorite TV shows and movies. Sure, these works of art entertain us, offer us an escape, and even tap into our emotions. But I'm going to tell you, Ryan, there's one E that's often overlooked.
Is that educational, you think? Is that what it is?
I think so.
If viewed from a different perspective, these stories and their characters can help us to learn and develop as human beings. I'm your co-host, Ryan Vanderhei, and it's our mission with this podcast to help share these unique perspectives with you so that you can grow from the show.
Awesome. So the topic of today's show and our discussion is the film Queer. As always, there will be a ton of spoilers, so proceed with caution. And be sure to leave a like, rating, or review wherever you listen or watch, as it really helps us with the show. So, shall we begin?
We shall.
We shall.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
So, watching this movie, Ryan, a few questions came to mind. The first one was, what will one do to get the attention or the affection of someone that they adore, they want, they obsess over?
Yeah.
Because we certainly saw that. And the next question is, what's behind self-destruction?
A lot.
An awful lot.
An awful lot.
And quite frankly, this movie gives us a front row seat in this.
That it does.
And nothing about this is flattering, enviable, or fun to watch, quite frankly. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But it might strike a chord. And I got to say, it did with me.
Yeah, this movie was very... I don't know what the word is to describe this movie. If I had to sum it all up
In one word?
in one word,
I'd be deeply impressed by that.
it takes you on a ride,
That's exactly what I was thinking.
and you can't get off.
Nope.
It's like when you get on a roller coaster and the guy goes, "Is everybody buckled in? Like they do a check or whatever. They got to come around." Oh, I was buckled in, baby.
For sure.
I was buckled in.
But I was as well. I will say, though, that this relates to the second theme that I want to discuss today.
Okay.
Because we're on that ride and you can't get off.
The cat wants to discuss the theme too, so just
And I've been listening for good points.
she's gonna
You know,
she might chime in every once in a while. with something.
yeah, which she's welcome to. The second theme that I'd love to discuss with you, and we will, which is more fun, but possibly more one-sided because I might have more to contribute, is expansion through chemistry.
Ooh,
More specifically, gaining greater understanding by means of illicit substances.
whoa.
More specifically, even still, what's it like to take ayahuasca? Okay? Because that happens in this movie.
Yo, it does.
And I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I felt like this was a lost opportunity, at least for this character.
Oh,
And to me, the story could have taken a very, very different turn than it did.
interesting. Okay.
And so I wanted to talk about my perspective on that.
I would
And,
love to hear
and
it.
Of course, I'd love your input however
Sure.
you can.
What's it like to take ayahuasca? Yeah, that is an interesting question.
Well, and it's not, and we'll get into it, but
We'll
it's
get
not
into
just about what does that feel like, but it's also why take it. You know,
Sure,
what's the intent behind it?
Yeah.
Because our character did have an intent, but like I said, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So
I think that really matters when taking a substance like that. I mean, listen, I'm not the expert on this kind of stuff,
usually,
but I just feel like the mindset that you go into it with or what you want to take out of it goes a long way. Reminds me of, what's the show? Oh, Industry. We love Industry,
Yes.
right?
Yes, we do.
And then that final episode, Kit Harington's character talks about how he was,
yeah.
Yeah. Yelling at the driver, pull over, let me out. And he has this like experience where he, does some illicit drugs and he texts her and says, "You are deeply connected to my purpose," and all these kinds of things.
Yep.
I don't know why that just rang a bell, but
because I believe he was taking ayahuasca.
Yeah, he did. I think he did mention that.
They didn't. I don't.
Oh, him and
Yeah,
him and
I know. Yeah,
I can't remember.
I
his
know,
name.
and he's brilliant. But I know who you mean, and I believe that was
Rob.
ayahuasca. Rob,
Him
well
and
done.
Rob.
Woo!
They go and
Pulled
they
that one out
take
of the
ayahuasca
air.
together
Well
out in the middle
done.
of the
Well
forest,
done.
much like our
Yes,
companions here did.
exactly. Although these guys in Queer went all the way to Peru for
Yeah.
that. So I'm going to give first a quick review of the movie and then dive into a couple of scenes and we'll get into a deeper discussion on that. So we have William Lee, who is the protagonist, and that is played by in anyone but Bond, Daniel Craig.
Anyone but Bond. It's a great.
He was just so amazingly unbond.
Yeah,
It was really
sure.
impressive.
Yeah.
So he plays an American expat writer living in 1950s Mexico City. He's also what I would call a burgeoning alcoholic, a devoted heroin addict, and a gay man who wonders, while observing other gay men, if he's one of the subhuman things.
Right. We hear that a lot of different times throughout the film.
And so it was clear that there was a lot of self-loathing going on.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm sure that we could have gone into more issues, but I just didn't have the bandwidth. So,
yeah. There's a lot to discuss here with this character. He's quite the robust character.
He really is, and he's quite relentless in his pursuits.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
think that was part of what you were alluding to with feeling like you were on the ride, because Daniel Craig playing Lee would just not let us go. Because he was utterly relentless.
Yeah, and utterly, fantastic in this.
He was I mean, talk about an actor completely throwing themselves into the role. There was not one cell of him that was holding back, that was doubting what he was doing, that wasn't completely embodying William Lee.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I was a bit awestruck.
I'm a massive fan of the Bond films, specifically his. And so I was in awe. I was enamored by him. Anytime he was on screen, it was like I was glued.
Yep.
He was just absolutely unbelievable. He disappeared. And I think that that's why he's getting a lot of Oscars buzz.
I completely agree. He was magnetic in this profoundly self-destructive human being.
Yeah.
So here's one of the scenes I want to discuss.
I
So
love that you chose this because I wanted to talk about this too.
okay. So we see Lee out on the prowl, and I mean that quite literally. He is
he's out
looking for young meat, because I think that's kind of the way he was looking at it, you know? So he's on the prowl, and Nirvana's Come As You Are was playing, which was, beyond being anachronistic to the highest degree, also added a dimension that I really liked.
Dude, I loved
It added a texture of modernity that was offset by what we were looking at visually.
Yeah.
But it was also just lyrically and musically the right song.
Right.
I was really kind of taken by how appropriate it felt.
Yeah, it's so good, man. I love that song. When it popped in here, I was like, I was all about it.
Yeah, me too. Because it was already visually very interesting. By the way, I could tell that wasn't Mexico. I just knew it wasn't.
Yeah.
They shot it in Italy.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, you could tell. So that's blasting. And Lee spots, this is Daniel Craig's character, he spots Eugene, a younger, much more handsome, much less alcoholic American expat played by Drew Starkey, who was really, really excellent. And Lee is immediately smitten. by
Love
this
at first
young
sight,
guy.
yeah.
To a degree that
As soon as he sees him, it's like his mouth goes agape.
He did. And so, he sacrificed, I thought, what little dignity he was barely holding on to.
Yeah,
You know?
he searched for it somewhere.
Exactly.
What little bit was left.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Eugene, we soon see, is a tease and, I'm just going to say a head fuck to cruel degrees.
Yeah, oh yeah.
To really cool degrees. So Lee and Eugene, Lee gets his dream come true, and he and Eugene, they've already hooked up. Okay. So, and this is just after,
They develop like a relate, like quote unquote, I don't know what you want to call it, friendship. They're
Yes.
hanging out for a while, and Daniel Craig's character William Lee talks about it, and then they eventually hook up.
They do have a hookup, which we see. It's unusual, to say the least.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what a typical hookup would be, but it just struck me as unusual.
yeah,
And it was post puke.
yeah.
He got the young
pukes.
kid Eugene really drunk, and Eugene goes to the bathroom, and then he comes back. Do I smell like puke? And all I could think was, hell yes. No.
Kind of
No.
endearing, man. Kind of a little bit endearing in that moment.
A little endearing, but again, there's such a, I wouldn't call it a thread. It's like a rope of desperation.
Oh yeah,
That runs through everything he does.
Yeah.
So the two men are in Lee's apartment after the hookup, and they're sitting on the sofa and they're each reading. And Lee puts down his book and he moves closer to Eugene, who said blandly, "If you insist."
Yeah. The attitude that he had about it.
The attitude that he had, and Lee was just so stoked, if you will, to be getting his way, to be getting what he wanted, that he didn't even care that this young guy was indifferent.
Right.
Absolutely and utterly indifferent.
Yeah.
And it was this was pretty early in the movie, but it was already, for me, hard to watch.
Yeah.
It was really hard to watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just, so I don't know about you, but if I showed interest in someone and that's how they respond, I would need to find my dignity, because clearly it is MIA. You know?
It's gone.
Oh my God.
Yeah, to kind of throw yourself at someone and they're kind of like, well, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
If we have to.
Yeah.
Let's all right. I guess we'll do it.
And like I said, and we'll get to it, but it did push my buttons. Absolutely.
Yeah, just uncomfortable. Yeah, to say the least.
It was incredibly, and it just made me wonder, is getting what you want really that great? And I just think that Lee was so, he just didn't care. However Eugene was about it, he just didn't care. It's the fact that this young man was with him. I think he just thought, I have an Adonis with me, and that's all that matters
Yeah.
for the moment.
Yeah, this young, handsome guy
Who is
who will allow us to, basically that's what it comes down to. He just won't say no.
No, he won't. Well, initially.
Right.
Oh, you mean Lee won't say no?
Eugene.
Eugene. Well, Eugene proves to be aloof, to say the least.
Yeah.
So, going to another scene, and I thought it was just so indicative of what we're talking about here. And this was post-sex, and Eugene is getting dressed, and Lee, Daniel Craig's character, zips up Eugene's pants, helping him get dressed when clearly no help is needed. He's not a 2-year-old. He can dress himself.
Yeah.
And it wasn't needed, and it wasn't wanted.
Yeah.
Like Eugene was not digging it.
Yeah, you could tell there was kind of like a moment there.
Oh yeah, like, get out of my bubble.
Wait, because then he's got the belt, and then Lee goes to do it, and you could tell like Eugene's not about it. And so he kind of backs away.
Just utterly painful to watch.
Oh, the shame.
Lee gets Daniel Craig's character gets the idea, and he backs up a bit. And Eugene blandly says, as he said most things, I want to get a rum and coke, wherever they hang out at one of the several kind of quasi-gay, there were gay bars, and there was one that wasn't quite, I think. But anyway, they go, and Eugene has a drink with his lady friend, his redhead lady friend that he hangs out with quite a bit, and completely ignores Lee, not just that night, but for several days.
Right.
And it was torturing Lee over this time. And this is way before cell phones, and way before, and it was Mexico City. And granted, there were only a few places it seemed like they were hanging out, but he was being actively ignored. And
it was torturous.
It was just eating
him
Lee
alive.
alive. Yeah. And so he was already like I said, a burgeoning alcoholic. But now you see him just getting even deeper and deeper as this young kid who was never into him in the first place
Yeah.
was ignoring him.
Yeah.
So how does Lee respond to getting ignored?
Tell me how Lee
Well,
responds.
I'll tell you. I am going to tell you. Spoiler. So Lee responds to Eugene's coldness by asking him to join him on a South America trip.
Yeah, that seems reasonable for what a person
Absolutely. I think that kind of behavior should be rewarded.
to be
with a
ignored. To
South
hook up
American
with
trip.
someone, to
Exactly.
be ignored, and then your
Yeah.
response is, well, we should go on a trip together.
Yeah, exactly. That was my first thought too. I thought that was such a good move. No, I'm quite kidding. So the way that Lee positions it to his young friend, and he's not even sure that his young friend is gay.
Yeah.
He says, you can lay all the women in South America, but there's just one condition: as long as you're nice to me twice a week. So how does Eugene, that warm-hearted, kind fella, respond? He says, I'll let you know in a few days.
Let me think about it. I'll consider it.
Oh my God.
God.
So a few days later, Lee says to Eugene, this was kind of an interesting thing. He tells Eugene, I know you have a 400 peso credit at this place, and I've actually been thinking about becoming a co-owner here. And he says to Eugene, you wouldn't be in the best position to ignore me then.
if he basically
if
buys his debt.
Right, if he buys his debt.
Yeah.
It's then that Eugene offhandedly agrees to go to South America.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, that's literally the attitude he has. He's like, well,
Oh
new
my
places is always kind of
God.
cool, I guess.
I just... This is
It's
where...
hard. It's hard to watch almost because it's like
There's no almost about it, because Daniel Craig is such a good actor. And Drew Starkey was so good as well.
yeah,
They
like
were really believable.
watching this guy just unapologetically throw himself at someone that literally wants nothing to do with them.
Nothing.
Was so hard.
Nothing. And yeah, how many times can I just lay down in the mud, and let you walk over me?
Yeah, it's not enough that like you ignored me. Well, you should come with. Then it's not enough that, oh, well, you can just sleep with all the women you want just as long as you're nice to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there no dignity at all? Is there none left?
None. And it's not as though, it's not as though this kid was actively doing anything to keep Lee engaged. He was
giving him nothing.
He was giving him so nothing.
Yeah.
Like crumbs would have been something.
Yeah.
So actually, we're going to get to a crumb scene here.
Oh,
And then
boy.
we'll do our bad guy break.
Love it.
So we're in South America, and Lee and Eugene have hooked. They've had what we see as their first encounter.
Yeah.
They've been in South America for quite some time.
Yeah, and he's been sick, and they haven't
Exactly.
hooked up at all.
Exactly. But now they clearly have.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lee asks Eugene, do you like our sex? And I got to tell you, I was as surprised as Lee, because Eugene says, yeah, very much. And it looked like he meant it.
Mm-hmm.
And Lee is utterly ecstatic.
Over the moon.
Utterly ecstatic. But the next morning, when Lee is too affectionate,
Yeah, he's just giving him like a rub on the back.
Yeah,
Like kind of
yeah.
like grabbing his shoulder, kind of caressing his face.
Eugene literally knocks Lee back.
Yeah, like get off
It
me.
was just get off me, just pushes him away.
Right.
Lee apologizes to Eugene, and Eugene's response is, I don't like people who apologize during breakfast. Oh my God. I
That's a
mean,
good line.
just ice cubes.
That's a great line.
Just verbal ice cubes.
I don't like people who apologize during breakfast.
Oh my God.
Great. I was laughing. I was laughing in the theater.
So yeah, that was a great line. So just to, can I relate to this personally? And is that why I was squirming so much watching this movie? It's not like I'm not a burgeoning alcoholic. I'm not a heroin addict. I'm not a gay writer in 1950s Mexico. However, I can understand, quite unfortunately, the desperation behind wanting the affection of someone so much that I was willing to completely forego my own dignity.
Sure.
So I will just say, it was I was in a, I don't know what else to call it besides a tryst. I wouldn't even say I was dating someone,
Yeah.
but it lasted for 2 years. I was, over the span, I was utterly infatuated with this woman.
Mm-hmm.
I would spend anywhere between 1 to 3 days with her, and those 1 to 3 days were fantastic. We were just incredibly compatible. She was super smart,
Yeah.
very interesting. We both loved music,
Yeah.
books, art, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of ways we could connect.
Yeah.
And when we went out and had drinks and stuff, we had so much fun. Like we
Yeah.
could make each other really laugh.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to give more details of like what her life situation was. It would make more sense why she kind of disappeared. I'll just say this. She was getting her PhD at the time.
Okay.
So she had a lot of stuff going on.
Yep.
We'd have a great time. And then this was pre-cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
She would utterly disappear. Like nothing.
Like off the face of the earth.
Completely. And that could last up to 4 or 5 weeks.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Nothing.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to leave too many voicemail messages.
You had a little bit.
Because I left many. Just what's too many?
Yeah,
Ryan,
right,
I don't
right.
know. And at the time, I had no idea because I had no dignity.
Yeah, where's the line?
There was no line.
Yeah.
So it drove me nuts. So
Mm-hmm.
watching this movie reminded me of that desperation until finally there got to be a point where I just couldn't take it anymore. And I had to say enough. And I wondered at times if I would ever get that to that point. And I was thankful I did before it became, super destructive.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Like, what did that look like when you were finally like, all right, this is crazy. I can't be doing this anymore.
Because when I would see her, when it finally got to be too much, it was like I was asking if she would, I think we were going to do a Napa weekend with my parents. They liked her. They invited her. Like, does she want to come? And she just wouldn't commit to it. Well, I don't know. It might be kind of fun, but I don't know. And she was just completely playing a game with me.
Yeah.
And she knew it.
Yeah.
And she actually said to me, I'll never forget this at one point, there's going to come a time when you're not even going to like me anymore.
Quite an interesting thing to say to somebody.
And she was right.
Well, that sure she was. Yeah.
So this begs the question that I have for you, Ryan. I know. Have you ever sacrificed your dignity for someone or something? And if you have, do tell.
Oh man. Oh, without question, I have. Thankfully, when I was younger and a little bit more naive, but I've been. Look, I was in a relationship with someone early on, high school. One of my first, I guess, long-term relationships, you'll say. And beyond this person being mentally and emotionally abusive, that's a separate story.
Ouch.
We can talk about that on another
Yeah.
podcast. We'll fit that
If
in
you
somewhere.
want. Okay.
But this person kind of, I had so much love to give, and I had such a big heart, and I like fell head over heels for this person, and just it's the first love, right? So it's like you're feeling those feelings of love for the first time, and it's confusing, and it's crazy. When you're first in love for the first time, it feels insane, and you can't. I thought, like, I don't want to spend a second away from you. Like, I want to be with you every second of every day, and I just threw all my eggs into this one basket. And she kind of, it was sad. It was like she would cheat on me all the time and just all this stuff. And she just didn't, I was kind of there. She liked having somebody there that was like, oh, you'll take care of me. And when I'm sad, you'll tell me you love me and all this stuff. But then I'm going to go do me, and I'm going to live life.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to, all these guys that are showing me attention, I'm going to go hang out with them. And then, oh yeah, there's that Ryan guy, right? That that likes me. And I'll just, yeah, come over and we'll hang out. Yeah. I could use some companionship. I was just like this, like, I don't know, second option, I guess, for years, for like 2 years. I was this. So I absolutely know what it feels like to throw yourself at someone again and again and again when you're not getting that in return.
Wow. Yeah, and you were making me think of even more things that happened for me with this relationship, because I don't think I was even the second option with her, quite frankly.
Sure.
But something I'm glad for about you is that that happened to you when you were really young. You didn't get the benefit of the first kiss from being the perks of being a wallflower.
Right.
You know, that
Right.
would have been magical.
Sure.
That actually might have made the rest of life more difficult, because nothing would quite stand up to that.
Yeah.
But you could have been quite bitter from that.
Sure.
And that could have really kind of messed you up.
I think I was for a time. I mean, I was young.
Pretty understandable.
I was impressionable.
Ah.
I didn't understand how to compartmentalize what was happening to me and what I went through. And it really, it was sad because people would come. The saddest part about it was that I would have friends and family come to me and tell me, this person doesn't care about you. This person doesn't this doesn't that. And I would just, it was like I had, this was me when people were talking to me about it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, huh? I don't see what you see. I had rose-colored glasses on. All I saw was this who I thought was this amazing person I wanted to be with. And they didn't want anything to do with me in return.
I don't want to be able to relate to you on some things.
Yeah,
I really don't.
It's not a good thing to
I really
some
don't.
things, yeah.
But I really do relate to you on that.
Sure.
Big time.
Sure.
So don't you think this is a good time for a bad guy break?
I would love a bad guy.
Let's just
break.
do that.
Let's bring things back up a little bit.
We are going to. So the year, and by the way, bad guy break is guessing. You can guess what it is that I'm leading to here with a few clues. Okay, so here are your clues. So the year is 1995.
Oh, good
Way
year.
back machine for
Good
you.
year I was born, baby.
The medium is film, so you might not have gone to the cinema.
I don't
To
think
see
I
it.
was in the cinema in 95.
Okay.
No.
The genre is dark romance, psychological drama.
What an interesting combo.
The star, the actor, Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage, 95, dark romance. This is Fallen Angel or whatever it is?
It is not. It is Leaving Las Vegas.
Oh, you talked about this.
I did. I did reference it in
did.
an earlier podcast.
Damn, I should have gotten that.
It was profound and really focused self-destruction. I mean, it was impressive.
Is he a gambler?
so-
Is that what the...
No, he lost everything because of alcoholism, and then he gets this royalty check, and so he's got money
Okay.
and a very strong desire to burn down what little is left of his life. So, and at least in that sense, he was honest with himself, because he knew he had completely destroyed his life to such an extent there was nothing left. So he was determined to take himself out. Like, I'm going to be done. So you watch a man literally drink himself to death.
Whoa.
Nicolas Cage did win an Academy Award for this. It
Wow.
was extraordinary.
I got to see this movie.
And Elizabeth Shue is in there, and she is also spectacular.
Okay.
Yeah. Whew. So
So again, left unchecked, your self-destructive behavior will end badly.
boy, it sure did in Leaving Las Vegas. And it's not even the point of that movie. I'll never forget. I gave the ending away to someone who hadn't seen the movie, and they never forgave me for that. But to me, the point wasn't how it ends, because it was a book. I believe it was I thought it was known in the world that he doesn't make it. It doesn't have a happy ending.
Sure.
But it's fascinating to watch the process. And Nicolas Cage was pitch perfect.
Love it.
So that's the bad
I'm
guy
gonna have
for
to see
today.
that. All right.
So let's go to another scene, and this is the next topic that I want to discuss.
Okay.
Within
This is
queer.
this is where the movie gets. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Let's dive in, man.
So here's where we're going to dive in.
is everybody seated? Are we all? You got to
So-
sit down for this one.
So Lee and Eugene go to Lima, Peru. And this is because Lee, the writer, played by Daniel Craig, is in search of the Yage plant, because he's curious about whether or not it can actually help people be telepathic
Yeah, communicate.
and communicate without speaking, because that's what he keeps saying. He wants to communicate without speaking. And I just thought, dude, you don't need the yage plant for that. But he couldn't hear me, and I was in
a lot without speaking.
Exactly. So they go to the jungle of Peru. They find an American botanist, a medical doctor who's been living there for years. And Lee asks if she knows about the yage plant. First, she says that only local shaman administer that, and it could take years before the shaman will know him well enough to agree to it. So he's not discouraged by that. And this botanist in time really warms to him and to Eugene. And so to me, quite frankly, this is where the film got interesting.
Oh, did it ever?
And here's what I was hoping for. I was hoping for an exploration. I was hoping that Lee was trying to understand more about himself and use the yage plant, ayahuasca, to understand himself better. Why am I driving myself into the ground? Why am I doing whatever I can to sacrifice what little dignity I have for something that I think I want, and in the form of Eugene doesn't even want me back?
Yeah, it could offer perspective.
It can offer perspective. And so I thought, this is fascinating, because I just thought it could potentially open up something in him that he'd go, okay, telepathy or no telepathy, wait a minute. Like, I'm seeing things about myself, because there was the botanist's husband, I believe, who told him, you're basically not ready. You'll see too much.
Right.
And
once you open the door, you can't close
exactly. And I was like, take that blue pill, baby.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What's he got to lose? I mean, this is his opportunity. He's already out in the jungle. He came all this way.
Exactly.
This is an opportunity for him.
Exactly. And although this isn't perhaps medically proven, I have heard these, what would you call them, testimonials firsthand, that ayahuasca can help break addiction.
Wow.
So, but no, Lee wanted to communicate telepathically, which he did, actually. But I wanted to see more of what the plant did for him, and we absolutely did not get to see that.
Yeah.
So then we fast forward from the jungle in Peru to 2 years later. He goes back to Mexico City. I thought he looked better, but when he sees Jason Schwartzman in I hope that was a fat man.
He looked pretty rough in that movie.
He did look very rough.
Yeah, hopefully a fat suit.
Yeah, I really hope that was a fat suit. But because I thought Daniel Craig's character looked a little better, and I was hopeful, like 2 years later, and Jason Schwartzman pretty much shot that down right away.
His he was like, just, you don't look great, man.
No, you look terrible.
Yeah.
So, but we don't know if he's really better or not, because we have that 2-year gap, and the movie gets utterly surreal.
Yeah.
At this point, and we see him as an old man, and then his younger self, like, lays spoons with him on the bed. I believe until the old man himself passed away.
Oh, you thought that was his younger self? You didn't think that was Eugene?
No.
Oh, I thought it was Eugene, because remember the leg move.
That actually, yes, the leg move. You're
when
right.
He was in the.
So he was imagining Eugene.
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
Yeah, there's the leg move where he's
shivering
from the
there
withdrawal.
Was the leg move. Yeah,
and then Eugene's what little expression of care he has is to like just put his leg over his.
Yeah, which
to like warm him.
So. Yeah, turn on your heart light.
That's the move that happens at the end.
That is the move. So he is imagining that.
Yeah.
So I will say this. I don't think it's going to get me arrested, but I have taken ayahuasca.
This is fascinating.
And
I'm excited.
And I've seen what it does.
Okay. Give us some insight here.
So
I have not taken ayahuasca.
Okay. I didn't think so.
I would love a peek into that.
That's where I thought this might be a little one-sided.
Into that life, yeah.
It's fascinating. The way I thought of it was, you could think it melts the division between your conscious and your unconscious mind, and so that's what the botanist's husband was referring to about seeing too much.
Oh, and about once the door's open, you can't close it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because there are
Interesting.
discussions, arguments, what have you, about the conscious and the unconscious mind.
Mm.
What makes sense to me is the unconscious mind is filled with things that you don't want to see, don't want to know, don't want to hear, hurts too much, what have you.
Okay.
And when you take this, it helps open that door and you can see those things about yourself.
Which makes sense to why that's what you wanted from Lee's experience.
Exactly.
He had an opportunity there.
He had an opportunity
Yeah.
to see, to understand his self-destruction, to understand what drives him and his addictions.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened for me, and it can be very emotional. I'm good about knowing that I'm just taking a substance and it's only going to last for a finite amount of time, and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I had good people around me, which
That's what you need.
helped,
Yep.
and so I felt very supported.
Perfect.
But I could really, I could see things in a dispassionate way. So I could see things about me and not take them personally.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So
it
it's
takes
like-
it removes the ego.
It does at times. It removes the ego. It removes the way I thought of it was the personality of Joe Parente was in this box here,
Whoa.
and I was something else. And Joe Parente and his foibles and his concerns and his worries and whatever were here, and now I'm just, I don't know. I'm just me.
You can look at it from a step away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it helped me understand and not take it personally.
Interesting. So do
Even though it's me and
Right.
it's my person, I would not take it personally.
So have those experiences, I don't know how many times, but did those affect you profoundly? Did you come out of them a different person?
Absolutely.
And they helped.
They did.
Wow.
And they did last because it wasn't just about like you could get if one drinks a lot and then has a great conversation with someone that actually is something, they might be so hammered they might not remember the conversation.
Sure.
And that happens. Something like this is you will definitely remember it
It's going to stay with you.
because it's yes, that drug, if you will, has a real strong effect, but it's not twisting you in such a way that you don't remember when you come out.
Fascinating.
You will retain it.
Fascinating stuff.
And it's really helpful. And I thought that would have been a really interesting way for this to
Yeah.
go with this
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, absolutely.
It did not go that way.
No, it just brought him closer to Eugene.
Yeah.
That's really all the ayahuasca did was allow him to.
To telepathically communicate with Eugene. And that's what he wanted.
Yeah, that was his drive, his desire came through.
And that's where I just felt like, oh, such a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, it looks like Lee wasn't able to step away. He
No.
was still Lee.
And that
He still
gets
had
to
his desires.
exactly, because he didn't want to.
Right.
He didn't want to see. He didn't want to know.
And maybe it's like you said, it depends on what you're going into it with, what your mindset is.
Exactly. And quite frankly, he got what he intended.
Right. Which was to communicate
Yeah.
without saying anything.
Yeah. And so with something like ayahuasca, because there are things like San Pedro or mushrooms,
Yeah.
intent matters. How you go into that really matters, and it will affect what takes place.
I've heard that. Yeah.
I didn't take ayahuasca recreationally.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mushrooms. Psilocybin and I really like each other a lot.
Yeah.
And I also find that incredibly helpful for me in the same way
Okay.
that I can look at things and not take it so personally and go, oh, wow, okay,
Yeah.
okay. And it's
important.
It's
Intent
incredibly
is important.
incredibly helpful. And I do intent, and quite frankly, the way I do it, I look at my calendar and I look months ahead to figure out, like weeks or months ahead, when can I do this? When will I have a stretch of time? I set my intent. And then when that time comes, I've already cleared my calendar for like 2 or 3 days later.
And you're good. You're in a good headspace.
Yeah, well, I'm in the headspace I'm in. I don't try to control that, but I have my intent of what I want from that.
Wow, that's profound.
And it's it's really helped me a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is fascinating.
So
I
there
love
you
that
go.
this turned into that. I learned a lot more about you on this episode. I love it.
Yes, you did. I could go a lot more, but I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna, because I want
We're
to
going
give.
to turn this camera off, and then you're going to
Exactly.
go into more detail.
So rather, I'm gonna give 5 recommendations.
Okay.
Of movies.
Okay.
So this is varying degrees of self-destruction, what have you. The first one is The Lobster.
Oh, Yorgos. Yeah.
Colin Farrell. Yeah.
Mhm.
It
Okay.
was find love or die, quite frankly. So there's a whole lot of desperation going on in that one.
Interesting.
The second one is The Master, Joaquin Phoenix. So aimless,
PTA. I
Drinking
haven't seen this.
drinking to destruction, lands in a cult.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not great.
I thought it was fascinating, though.
Okay.
Self-destruction, Taxi Driver
Fuck. God,
Yeah.
what a good movie.
in dystopian 70s New York City.
Yeah, what a movie. Man.
And he really, really tried to self-destruct, and at the end, he didn't quite, I mean, he didn't.
And a very young Jodie Foster.
Yeah, very, very young Jodie Foster. The next one is called Filth, starring James McAvoy. He's got bipolar disease, and is he fighting the inner demons? It's really something. He is phenomenal. So
He did that. He did Split too, right?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
And the last one is I had to bring it back and recommend it, Leaving Las Vegas,
Okay.
because
Makes
Nicolas
sense.
Cage is a marvel
Very
in
transferable.
that. He is an absolute marvel.
Love it. Love the recommendations.
So Ryan, I think that's it. I think we're gonna wrap it up
Let's
with that one.
I think that's a great conversation that we just had. That was
Yeah.
bringing it all back together there. Yeah, just I wanted him to get more out of that experience too. I'm glad that you said that because I felt the same way, where I
too.
was like, I want, I wished that out of that ayahuasca experience that he would have some sort of different perspective on himself and the way he was acting and treating
Exactly.
himself. Quite frankly,
Yeah.
there was no love for himself. There was no care. There was no compassion. There was no
No.
dignity. It was all gone.
Yeah.
So
And he died an old man alone.
yeah, that he did. That
yeah.
he did.
Yeah. But again, a phenomenal performance by Daniel Craig.
Fantastic.
So, you all out there, thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, as always, you're the main character in your own life. So don't be afraid to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because sometimes the answers that you've been looking for are lying just beyond the frame. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.